Kansas traveling to DKR in our previews. I took Texas to win and cover. You took Texas to win, but Kansas to cover. But something we didn't know until basically kickoff that day was that Jalen Daniels was not going to be available in this game. I will argue, though, that this was absolute annihilation. And that it might not like Kansas might have put up 28 points, right? They could have maybe covered the 16 and a half, but this was two different tiers of teams, right? This was defensively, I thought Texas did really well. Kansas in the second quarter scored on a ridiculous fumble play on a triple option where Jason B just got rocked by Jalen Catalon, and then Highshaw scooped it up and scored. So that was Kansas's only points at the second quarter. They came out early and scored on a big explosive play. Jason Bean, nice throw down the field. And you're like, oh, some life. No. 661 total yards for Texas on offense. Wow. That's
Yep.
That is a stat right there. Jonathan Brooks, 20 carries, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Brooks is good at football. How about Cedric Baxter? CJ Baxter, 68 yards and 16 carries.
Over 4 yards a carry. Good to see him.
I think he's kind of established himself as a number 2 back there. I think he's really, really talented. But Jonathan Brooks he's so patient when he runs, man. He's so patient. Like Bijan, so is Roshan in that sense, where he's kind of patient, but Roshan also is just really, really, really physical. I feel like Jonathan Brooks is that physicality, but he also like kind of glides when he's running through holes, running through tackles. He looks smooth. I like Roshan as a player, I think, better, as a draft prospect better. I think he does more, but Jonathan Brooks is really good. And hopefully this is not and I mentioned on the preview that, Kansas's defense have been looking pretty good. And they did get a turnover. Quinn Ewers' first interception of the year. But was it really we talked about it? They kind of relied on big time turnovers, defensive scoring, and they kind of did last year. And then in the game where they didn't get that, turnover luck, they got blown out. Now, Jalen Daniels, not having him in the game is tough. But also this Texas defense, I think, is just really, really good. I think they're just really, really good. I mean, I don't know if they forced any turnovers per se, but or even any sacks for that matter, but just playing lockdown. Just playing lockdown defense. I liked what their secondary did. I think they moved the ball well. They really shut down. I mean, Kansas kind of ran the ball okay, but they didn't really even try to run all that much because they were down pretty early. So, I don't know. What do you think?
To me, this tells me more about Texas than it does about Kansas.
Yes.
I think, obviously, Jalen Daniels changed this game, obviously. But again, another really, really impressive conference performance from Texas. We talked about it last week with Baylor. That was a prime letdown spot. This week, with the Red River rivalry and Oklahoma waiting, next week, another prime letdown spot, and they didn't let it happen. And my favorite part about it is this Texas team, right, under Steve Sarkisian, has been known to blow a lead or two, obviously, right, for sure. And this year, this game and this year, that has been totally different. They have been balling out in second halves of games. And it's not because they're sleepwalking through the first part. No, not. They're just finishing very, very strong, right? Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Sorry, 5, 4, full possessions that they had in the second half. They scored touchdowns on 4 of them, and they drove into the other territory and attempted a field goal. On the 5th one, obviously they missed it, Bird Auburn, whatever. And then the last one, they just ran out the clock. So, that's really, really impressive. That's as good as it gets that you can ask for in college football. If you're Texas, Quinn Ewers, again, played very, very well. 25-35, over 320 yards, a touchdown. Yes, he had 1 pick, but he also made some plays with his legs. He had that nice scamper, 30-yard touchdown run, which is nice to see. I mean, A.D. Mitchell, man, is him and Worthy and Whittingham and Sanders and the freshman Cook. How do you guard these guys? and you got Brooks out of the backfield. This is a really, really complete football team. And yes, Oklahoma's defense is much, much improved. And we'll talk about the game when it gets there. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really awesome. For Kansas, looking forward, obviously, priority number one is to get Jalen Daniels healthy. Whatever happened to him, make sure it doesn't happen again and he can play, right? You got some winnable games coming up. UCF, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Texas Tech, even Kansas State and Cincinnati are all winnable games that they've got remaining on their schedule. Obviously, Oklahoma thrown in there in the middle of that. But for Kansas, you still got to hang your head high, right? You went into Texas. You played a really, really good football team. They played really, really well, and you lost. You didn't cover, whatever, it happens. And you were without your starting quarterback. Now, obviously, that defense, like you said, you were hoping to be a little bit more productive, right? Especially with negative plays or just impact plays in general. I mean, you didn't quite get that. But yeah, moving forward for them, it's going to be Jalen Daniels healthy. If they're healthy, they can play with anybody. If he's not, their defense and running game with Devin Neal has to step up. And they didn't even try to get Neal going, I don't think. I mean, only 8 carries. I get it. It was a blowout in the second half, but I would like to see a little bit more from him. But yeah, credit to Texas. A lot of credit. I feel like every week we're getting on here and saying, this is not the Texas of old. This is a different Texas of Steve Sarkisian. Like they're playing complete football right now.
I agree. I will say that Jatavian Sanders injury could be impactful as well. His ankle, he went down in the first quarter. We'll see like his status moving forward. He's been a very impactful player, especially in some big games, right? When you kind of need him, he's there, man. When you need him, he's there. But I will say, I mean, Kansas. Another part of why this game was also so dominant too was ball control. I mean, Kansas ran 45 offensive plays. 45. That's not a ton, especially when you're trying to come back from a gigantic lead, right? I mean, Texas ran, I mean, if you're just counting Jonathan Brooks' runs and Quinn Ewers' passes, Texas ran 55 plays. That's it. It's not even including Cedric Baxter, 16 carries, Quinn Ewers, 7 carries. Blues 4 carries, Wisner's 2, AD Mitchell's 1 carry. I mean, that like Texas just the ball control, they just controlled this game through and through. They did. This is a really good team moving forward. So we got a River rivalry next week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, I'm excited for that game. I'm really excited.